this is Business Express. It's all about business this morning. It's Omasss, Rotus, and Zibby with you. Morning, Rotus, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Zibby. Good morning, Omasss. Good morning to everyone out there. Welcome to July. I always like it when the month starts off on a Monday. I always like that.
Right.
Yeah,
It is
it
weird,
feels
but
right.
it actually does. Monday,
It
first
feels
of
proper. It
Monday.
feels structured when it starts on Monday, when the first of the month is Monday. Very
All
structured.
right. Well, love for you to be a part of the conversation. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 You can also tweet at smooth981. Don't forget the hashtag Business Express 981. And we're streaming live on YouTube. So you can catch that live stream on our YouTube channel as well. It's smooth 981.
So for this morning's Business Express, we've got our focus on remittances. Slowed in 2023, expected to grow faster in 2024, as well as some articles from the World Bank listing problems that could reduce Nigeria's remittance inflow to Nigeria and others this year. So, Rotus, walk us through this. Can you describe this report from the World Bank and Nomad?
Yeah, so Nomad is the global knowledge partnership on migration and development. So it's a hub for policy expertise on basically migration and development. And it's supported by a multi-donor trust fund that was established by the World Bank. So the EU's put some money in there, Switzerland, I think Germany, some other nations. So essentially, they put out these reports every year where they look at, migration patterns and particularly remittance inflows and outflows for the different regions. So you know that remittance is very important to countries, and essentially by tracking these flows, using an economic backdrop of what's going on in particular regions, it paints a picture as to how much of this money is going into different nations and the triggers behind it and so on and so forth. So it's a very well-informed report. It's on the World Bank website. Anybody who's interested can go on there and read it. They've got some really cool spreadsheets going back to, I think, 2000 and what, I think the year 2000. I have to go back and even take a look. But it goes back quite a while and shows exactly. Okay, wait, I got it. How far does this go back? This goes back all the way. Yeah, 2000. I was correct. I got it. It was 2000. So it goes back all the way to 2000, showing how much money flowed into a number of nations. So it's a pretty important report, pretty cool report, very informative.
Now, for the low to middle income countries, which Nigeria does fall under, how much was received in remittances in 2023?
Yeah, for that group, it was a total of $656 billion that flowed into the low to middle income countries. It was just a 0.7% increase year on year. So we saw a bit of a slowdown for 2023 compared to prior what we saw. I mean, it's moving from 21 to 22 and so on and so forth. So basically that number needs to be more when you think about the countries within that region that depend heavily on it.
You're listening to Business Express on Smooth 98.1. Let us know your thoughts. We're speaking about the World Bank listing remittance risks for Nigeria. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. You can tweet at smooth981. Fulufil is asking, Rotus is asking for investment advice. What we can do, Rotus, your handle so that he can tweet you after the show and you can share that information with him.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm happy to even give it. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
there's your stocks which have they're higher risk, of course, because of how volatile they are. But although the market, I think, is up about 32%, as the NGX, the stock market so far this year, I have been telling people to look at treasury bills and also look at and bonds, like the federal government savings bond. In fact, we should be getting a new window for the federal. Again, I love it when the month starts on the first day of the weekday, because we should be getting a notification from the Debt Management Office that the federal government savings bond window will open from today, Monday, and for July and close on Friday. So within this period of time, you can buy bonds. You can get in there for about, it's a retail bond, 5,000 naira. You can buy multiples of it. The rates have been climbing. I think the last one was about 18%, if I remember correctly. There was a 2-year bond and a 3-year bond. You get your coupon payments quarterly. And so I've been telling people to trend a little bit more towards the fixed income and money market side, because the benchmark rate has been rising, right? Because the central bank has been trying to tame inflation. So, your T-bills are a good idea. Bonds are a good idea. And if you want to be, have a little money that you can put in the stock market for a long period, that's also a good idea as well. But my handle is Rotan Quotes, ROTANKWOT, if you have any extra questions. But throw in your questions on the show. We're always down to answer them.
And there's always the caveat Rotus will leave at the end of this to say, do your due diligence. But let's get on. Chibike is also here for you. And Chibike says, I really miss having Rotus on the show. What a great way to start the second half of the year. And yes, it does feel structured that it begins on a Monday. Chibike's thoughts. And that takes us to the next question. We understand this figure as some significance. Can you tie it to the importance of remittances to certain countries?
Yeah, certainly. So that's back to, Zibby's question of how much came into the LMICs, which is the low middle income countries. So that 656 billion was actually higher than foreign direct investments that came into that region. It was also higher than another acronym called ODA. ODA is Official Developmental Assistance. So that's money coming in for aid, for example. So it shows you, countries like Gambia, Lesotho, Cabo Verde, they really depend heavily on remittances for their balance of payments, for the disposable income of the individuals that collect the money. So basically, if you have an auntie, uncle, relative, friend, or whoever that sends you money from overseas, when you think about how strong the dollar has been, how it has appreciated against a number of emerging market currencies, and how they have depreciated. So, for example, as of Friday, we're back at $1,500 on the NAFEX window. That's the foreign exchange autonomous market, right? NAFEM, excuse me. So, if your aunt or uncle was to send you $1,000, you get that's 1.5 million naira, right? So, these remittances are very important in terms of what they mean to those countries in there.
All right, and let's see. I've got another message. Rotis, it does seem like Ernest has missed you, and he says, Happy New Month, welcome back. You've been missed. We look forward to hearing more frequently on the program. Coming back to the subject, now we understand that the World Bank is projecting an increase in remittances to the region this year. What are the downside risks to this projection?
Yeah, so for the low to middle income countries, again, that 656 billion grew by 0.7% year on year. So they're saying for 2024, they expect it to grow by 2.3%. But so the downside risk to that projection is one, slower growth in the developed nations where the money comes from. So again, there's no magic here, right? Remittances come from Nigerians that are overseas, or basically diaspora citizens of whatever country. So remittances that go into Ghana come from Ghanaians that live overseas. Remittances going into Senegal come from Senegals that are in Europe, America, and so on and so forth. So if the macroeconomic backdrop in those countries where the money is coming from is slowing down, then those people will not be able to send as much money. For example, inflation in Canada, I think it rose to 2.9%, and the projection was 2.6 or something. That's year on year. So cost of living in Canada is, it's rising. And so as it is, there's a big election on Thursday in the UK, July 4th, which funny enough is America's Independence Day. Inflation has been an issue in the UK. So that is a source of remittance inflows. Canada is a source of remittance inflows for all these low middle income countries. You've got a big election. I think this is round one in France. These parliamentary elections that Emmanuel Macron called. The right-wing Marine Le Pen's party is in the lead now. But if you look at frustration in France, frustration in Canada, frustration in America, frustration in the UK, all these places, Biden is facing a big challenge from Trump. It looks like Rishi Sunak is going to be kicked out on Thursday with the challenge coming from Keir Starmer. It looks like Emmanuel Macron could face a right-wing party of Le Pen, the Marine Le Pen's party taking over. In all these regions, you have frustration with inflation and frustration with higher cost of living. So that is one of the downside risks that the World Bank has pointed to in saying that if it costs you more money to stay alive in these countries where you stay, then you have less money to send back home, which could be a downside risk to the funds coming. And then there's also conflicts, we'll get to the regions. Some of the money that went into Europe and Central Asia was reduced because of the war in Ukraine and Russia. A lot of money goes out from Russia to Central Asia. And then oil prices, if oil prices climb, that makes buying fuel more expensive. And so things like that, those are the downside risks that they pointed to.
You've already scratched the surface of the next question, so might just talk us into it, the remittances inflow in other regions, and then link that up to the cost of sending money to other these regions. Just walk us through that.
Real quick. Yeah, so I mean, South Asia, 186 billion came in, was up 5.2%. The bulk of that money went to India. India got 120 billion. I mean, that's such a lot of money, right? Latin America and the Caribbean, they got about 156 billion, 7.7% growth. Mexico got the bulk of that. They got about 66 billion. East Asia and the Pacific got about 85 billion. As I mentioned, Europe and Central Asia, they got about 71 billion. That was down 10% because of what's happening in Ukraine, the war. The Middle East and North Africa got 55 billion. That dropped 15% because of a lot of remittance flows dropped going into Egypt. And then Sub-Saharan Africa, where Nigeria is, that got 54 billion. Nigeria got about almost 20 billion of that, so about 35% of that figure, but that fell by 0.3% year on year. So link it to the cost. The average cost of sending money home in 2020, Q4 of 2023, it was about 6.4%. So 6.4% of whatever amount you're sending, $100, $200, $500, $1,000. I think it was 6.2% in Q3. The Sustainable Development Goals target is 3%. It should also be noted that for digital remittances, so sending money electronically, as opposed to wiring money from a bank or whatever, that was about 5%. The non-digital rate is about 7%. So it's cheaper to send money digitally, but there's still issues. And even intra-Africa money, sending money from one African nation to the other, I hear that was as high as 30-something%. So there's still a lot of chinks in the armor to sort out when it comes to sending money within the African continent.
So what is being done here in Nigeria by the CBN to boost these remittance inflows?
Yeah, so the CBN liberalized the exchange rates for IMTOs, international money transfer operators. So when your uncle or your aunt sends money, the rate at which they convert the money is closer to the official rates, right? Which, as you know, before there was this big divergence between the black market rate and the official rate. That has narrowed considerably now. So there's, so now there's more, you get more money basically. And then I think they mandated also that they can't give it to you in foreign exchange. They have to convert it to Naira. So by giving you more money, basically based on the exchange rate, making it more realistic, that I think is part of what the CBN is trying to do to make sure that more inflows come into the country.
Well, it's way out of time, so let's just quickly get messages underway for you. We find a message in here from Ernest. Have we seen Ernest's message? Okay, we've seen Ernest. Then Gilbert Musa's message is waiting from Festac, says, well, Tundra's welcome to our man, Brutus. Well, it's been at large. I will miss you dearly, and I hope to hear more from you. That's what Gilbert Musa says here. And really miss Business Express. Good morning. Good to hear from Brutus. Ahmed from Obudu. So in all of this, they want to extract a commitment from you now. That's where all of this is living. So that's what it is. They know, so I'll put it across. Brutus.
Yeah, so guys, I mean, look, as you know, there's a lot going on. There's been a lot going on, so I've been stretched a little bit. But I will, because in the second half of the year, I will do my best to be on the show every day for at least the rest of this year. I'll do the best I can. If I can, of course, we'll get a guest to banter with you. But I will try. I've missed you guys as well, and well, I'll try and make it happen. Try and make it happen for sure. So tune in tomorrow. I'll be on tomorrow as well.
All right, Rotus, the people will hold you to it. That is it for Business Express this morning.